Representative Cotton, you've been in Congress for a little under 2 weeks now. Tell us about the first couple of weeks.
Well, you have the ceremonial swearing in on the first day, the election of the Speaker, and it was just a great honor to be there in the House chamber, in a chamber where men like James Madison and Abraham Lincoln have served. We had our first couple votes, and we're working now towards how we're going to handle the three big impending deadlines to try to address our debt crisis, the debt ceiling limit and the new delay to the spending cuts from the so-called sequester, and then finally the spending measure to fund the government after March 31st, and how we can use these opportunities to try to reduce spending and reform our health and retirement programs to get our fiscal house back in order.
What do you think is going to be the first priority of the new Congress?
Well, because of those three looming deadlines, it's going to be addressing those, and that means trying to reduce spending, to at least last year's level 2 years ago, because spending has continued to increase every year, not just under the Obama administration, but before that as well. Taxes are growing. Taxes just went up by over $600 billion. So I think that puts the lie to what the president has said, that we have a revenue problem. What we have is a spending problem, and addressing that in the next 60 to 90 days is going to be the most urgent priority.
You seem to have become something of a spokesman for some of the Republican freshmen in Congress. How did that role come about?
Mostly, I was asked to do an interview here and there, and I said yes. But there have been a few issues in which I've been, I think, particularly passionate about. The president has nominated Chuck Hagel, former senator from Nebraska, to be Secretary of Defense, and I just think that he's not the right man for that position.
Why is that?
Well, there's a couple reasons primarily. I don't think that he is going to be an advocate for our troops in the Department of Defense. He voted for the Iraq War in 2002 and then turned his back on the troops in 2006. Didn't just oppose the surge, which would be one thing, but called it the most dangerous foreign policy blunder since Vietnam. He delayed emergency funding for the troops. He said we're fighting a war for oil, which puts him far to the left of the president. And then second, today he still thinks the military budget is bloated and needs to be, quote, pared down. And the president's current Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, who's a Democrat and with whom I have policy disagreements, he doesn't agree with that. He knows just how devastating and catastrophic, to use those words, are that he uses those cuts would be. And I think because I myself served in Iraq and Afghanistan, several folks have asked for my assessment of Mr. Hagel. He's a Republican, and I think that the president wants him to preside over even more dramatic budget cuts than the Pentagon's already faced.
Who do you think would be a better selection for Secretary of State?
If the president wanted a former senator to help have good relations on Capitol Hill, I think Senator Joe Lieberman would be a great choice. He's always been a strong proponent of our military and for an American leadership role in the world. He was the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party just 12 years ago, so you can't doubt his bona fides in the Democratic Party. But there are also many competent Democratic defense professionals as well, like Ashton Carter, the current Deputy Secretary of Defense, or Michelle Flournoy, a former Undersecretary of Defense. So the president, gets wide latitude in choosing his cabinet, but I think Mr. Hagel's views on the military and also on our role in the world are so far outside the bipartisan mainstream that he's not the right man for the job.
A lot of the job of the congressman is just simply to answer phone calls and emails from the district and to see to the relations between individuals and the federal government.
Sure.
From the district.
Sure.
And I'm sure you probably had something of an education on that in the last couple of weeks. Tell me about that. What seemed to be, at least so far as the 4th District is concerned, the real day-to-day matters that people are having with the federal government?
That's right. Always, voting on legislation and writing legislation is kind of the textbook civics class role for the congressman. But there's also the work of serving your constituents. And in the 4th District, that can take, for instance, the role of being a representative to the federal agencies that manage federal lands, like the Forest Service, the Park Service, because so much of the land in the 4th District is under federal control, or representing the particular economic interest of the 4th District, like oil and gas and timber and so forth. And then, as in any congressional district, you have constituents who have problems with their veterans benefits or with Social Security or with getting a visa and so forth. And we're always very happy to try to help constituents with those matters.